Go.
I call him Melby.
Melby, Melbo,
And Mathrin.
Mathrin, Catherine, Saffron, Mathrin.
I don't think I've ever called Shelby Sathrin. I call her Shelbo a lot.
I call Shelby Shelbo.
I forgot your real name for one.
Shelby
I have so
McKelvey.
many nicknames just from this year alone, it's ridiculous.
Shelby McKelbo is still my favorite.
Yeah, I like that one.
My name is Big Tooth Manager from Main Street Pub.
Alright, so we're going to talk about interviewing for your dream job. That's the last time.
Whoa.
So, why am I talking about this? Well, obviously, we're all in college because we all want big girl and boy in person jobs.
Money.
Okay, yeah, that too.
Hell
We
yeah.
also really love money, and interviewing well will get you the jobs that will get you the dollars, make bank. But also this could be applied to TBS as well. If you think about it, a lot of chapters have you interview before you even come into the process. So if there were MCs here, I was going to make that point, but yeah. And then also if you were considering running for a district office, that's really intense interviewing from all of your peers.
Yeah.
So I'm also kind of preparing you for that if you were thinking about running for a district office.
Hint, hint.
Yeah, talk to me if you want to run for a district office. Okay, hint, hint. Okay. So,
Blank.
oh wait, I have this. So Harvard is just a little bit more qualified than me. I'm not quite a doctor yet, so I'm not really on their level. So I'm going to show y'all a video of a Harvard career advisor talking about interviews.
Did you put subtitles on?
Totes.
You.
Let me make sure it starts at
In
the
order to
beginning.
prepare a more perfect union.
In order to prepare for an interview, it's important to research in 3 areas. First area that you want to research is you. You want to research yourself, basically a summary of your qualifications, your relevant qualifications. You want to ask yourself how you can meet the employer's needs, what you bring to the table, and how you can add value. Then you also want to make sure that you research the position. You want to have a clear understanding of what XYZ does. Okay, again, meeting the needs of the position. You also want to research the employer. So they may say, why do you want to work for us? What do you know about us? So who's the CEO, history, products, services, competitors, etc.
By the way, I'm going to go over all this stuff, so don't worry about writing it all down.
Research the industry as well. So you, the position, the organization, and the industry. You want to make sure that you've prepared a series of short, relevant stories, okay, about yourself. It's something called the show and tell method. So you don't just want to say, these are my skills. You want to be able to demonstrate, to have short, relevant stories that have a beginning, a middle, and an end. I would recommend that you practice. At the very least, lock yourself in a room with a mirror and practice responses to commonly asked questions. You don't want to script it. You're not an actress. You want it to be conversational, but you want to hear yourself say these responses out loud. And if possible, I would recommend that you set up a mock interview with a professional career counselor. You want to make sure that you arrive on time. I generally say arrive 30 minutes in the vicinity, but about 10 to 15 minutes to announce yourself in the reception area. Then once you meet your interviewer, first impressions matter. And studies say it takes about 7 seconds. A prospective employer is immediately sizing you up. He or she is deciding, do they like you? Are you intelligent? Are you kind? Okay. You want to have good eye contact. You want to have a nice, strong handshake. And you basically want to be positive, confident, and upbeat. So watch your energy level. You want to be authentic and genuine, but most people need to turn up the volume slightly. There are basically 3 types of interviews. Some common interviews are now behavioral interviews. They begin with questions like, tell me about a time when. Tell me about a time when you were in a team and things went really well or things didn't go so well. You might have a technical interview. This might be perhaps you're going for a software engineering position. You might walk into the interview and they say, don't sit down, and they direct you to a whiteboard, give you a marker, and they want you to solve some algorithms. Perhaps you will have a case interview if you're interviewing with consulting firms, so you want to be well prepared for those in terms of practicing case questions. Telephone and Skype interviews are becoming more and more common, particularly for initial interviews. With a telephone interview, if you can get a landline, that's best. If not, make sure everything is charged up. You also want to make sure that you're in a quiet environment and that no one is going to disturb you. So the advantage is you don't have to worry about what you're wearing or what you look like. And you can have lots of notes, but you want to be organized. You want to make sure that you pace yourself, the tone, your articulation, that the energy comes forth within the telephone call. With a Skype interview, again, you want to test your equipment, make sure everything is working properly. You need to think about what you're wearing, because you're going to be on camera. Have something colorful. Watch the whites, the blacks, the patterns, etc. Watch the lighting in terms of like fluorescent lighting with a Skype interview. And even though it might be your natural inclination to look at the screen, it's important to look at the camera. That's how you'll be making eye contact. And then finally, with a Skype interview, I would watch your background. Be very much aware of your background. So at the end of the interview, I would recommend that you establish next steps. Some employers will tell you what the next steps are, but if they don't, it's perfectly fine to ask what are the next steps. I would also recommend that you have a closing statement at the end of the interview to let the interviewer know that you're very interested in the position and why you would be a great fit and match. Then in terms of once the interview is over, of course you want to send some type of thank you. It's probably going to be an email, but depending upon your audience, could be a short thank you note. In your thank you want to make sure, of course, that you thank the interviewer for their time, but also it's an opportunity to reiterate your interests and your qualifications. And I recommend that you send the thank you within 24 to 48 hours.
Nice.
Thank you.
Thanks, Harvard Extension Law, or school.
Extension law.
My favorite part. Okay, so that was fun. So, just to make it go a little bit slower for y'all to actually like grasp it. I love a good reiteration of things and repetition so you remember it. So, this is me giving this presentation a little round of dazzle. Okay, so the first thing that she went over was research. So basically there are 3 things you need to research before you even decide to, like, when you're looking for a job. So the first thing you really need to do is to research yourself. This is too fun. So the best way to do that is to ask yourself questions. A good self-reflection goes a long way. So ask yourself, am I even qualified for this job? Is the description of the qualifications something that I actually need? That is a good indicator of whether or not you should apply for the job, obviously. And then you also want to think about what kind of qualities are you going to be able to apply the job? Are you going to be able to innovate in the job? Are you going to be able to push the boundaries of the job? How are you going to do that? And what qualities do you have that are going to improve the job and make you valuable to the employer? And then lastly, why are you a good candidate for this job? Specifically, like why are you the best person for this job? Like why is this job something you want to apply for? Okay, now once you've got your job, you're like, oh, I'm qualified for this job, I would really love it, I think I would be really good at it, I've got qualities that I can apply to it. You want to research that actual job itself and the company itself. So a good way to do this is to just look on their website, look around, kind of see like what is their motto, what is their mission statement, what is their position statement, what are their core beliefs. You really want to know those going into an interview. It'll really impress the interviewer if you know specifically like their mission statement. Like I still remember CVS's mission statement from when I applied for them. It's helping you on your path to better health. I still know it because I had to know it for the interview. And then if you can't really find what you're looking for on just the website, you can always go to the contact page and email the contact person with questions about the company, questions about the specific job, and you can go about it that way. If you know people who have worked there, that's awesome. Networking is great. You can ask them questions about the job and what it's like to work there and the culture and to see if you would really fit in. And of course, what you can bring to that culture as well. And then the last thing you can do is to go to a career fair. Colleges, they love career fairs because they like you to get jobs because then it looks good for them. So go to a career fair and see what jobs are out there, and you can ask questions of the people who are representing that company. The last thing you want to be really knowledgeable about is the industry that you're going into. So just do some research about the products, especially the competitors of the company that you're trying to work for, and then a little bit about their history. How were they founded? And that goes back to kind of their core beliefs and values and knowing those and seeing if they fit well with your personality and then applying those to your interview. Oh, I keep forgetting I have this. Okay, so the next thing we talked about was preparing your stories. So this is really important to start like right now. We're actually encouraged to keep a journal throughout our APPE rotations, which is basically like I go and work at a different clinic every month. So I have a lot of patient interactions. Well, they encourage us to write down those patient interactions that were really impactful and would really benefit us in an interview. So that's my pharmacy. A lot of these are going to be related to pharmacy, I'm sorry, but that's putting myself in a position, or that is me keeping a journal. I totally skipped the first bullet point there. But the first thing you can do is to put yourself in a position where you can be relevant. I am a pharmacy major. When I went to look for my first job, I wasn't looking for a job at, I don't know, fast food place. I mean, a lot of people work at fast food places, and some of those interactions could be impactful, but I had more relevance applying to be an intern at a pharmacy or a pharmacy tech even. So just put yourself in a position to be relevant. This doesn't even have to be at your job. Like, this can be volunteer opportunities. This can be TBS opportunities where you are putting yourself in a situation that is applicable to your future. Like even with like law school and being like a parliamentarian as a part of the TBS chapter. Like that's putting yourself in a position to be relevant for that law school because they're going to see that you've worked with like a constitution before.
They sure do love it.
I figured they would. Okay, and then I kind of went off of keeping track of relevant school experiences, so yeah. So that's what you can do now. Then you're going to try to apply that for the actual interview. So you're going to sit down with your stories and you're going to see which of these stories are relevant. Which of these really apply to the job, show my qualities the best, and apply to that company's values. I'm so sorry. I think I really need some water, but it's cool. Okay. And then I have memorizer stories here. Because, like, if I were standing up here and I were giving you this presentation and I was reading off of a notebook like this, would you guys be, like, really engaged and connecting with me? No. So you want to make sure that you're not staring at a notebook the whole time, and we'll go over this later too, but don't have like a laptop open or your phone, because that can mean like you're really that shows that you're really distracted to the interviewer. So memorizing your stories, or at least having just a few notes on a notebook written down to like view, to like quick look and like say your story is a really good way to do that too. Question? Sorry, it looks like you had a question, so, okay, never mind. Alrighty. I think that was all I was gonna say about that. Okay, next thing is to practice your responses. This is super helpful. I can tell you I've gone like in an interview before and it is so not fun. And the best way to prevent this is to actually practice responding to various interview questions. Now this can be kind of intimidating, but there's a lot of different ways that you can actually do this. So you can practice with yourself in the mirror. Just, I recommend doing it in a mirror because you have someone staring back at you, and sometimes that can be really intimidating when you're in an interview. Just having someone stare back at you. So even if it's yourself, like, still have that kind of nervous tension building when you're practicing for your interview. You can also practice with a friend. You can also practice with a mentor. Martin is like my other half, but he's also like a good mentor to me because he's a year ahead of me in pharmacy school. We actually do this with each other. We will practice, he would practice interview questions with me, and he practices interview presentation with me, just to like give us feedback for each other and make us, because we're all about supporting each other. So even asking like your sisters and like your big or someone to do this with you is a really, oh my gosh. It's a really great utilization of your friendships and being able to support each other. And if a sister asks you to do this for them, like totally do it, because then you kind of like build that repertoire and you build that relationship, especially as a mentor. That's like really beneficial. You can also do this with a career counselor. I know at ONU we have advisors as well. We all have a faculty advisor. I don't know if that's the case at other schools, but you can go to that person. Thank you so much. You can go to that person as like a superior to you, who's definitely a superior to you, and they can give you feedback on how they got their job and what worked well for them, because they're obviously a professor at a university. They did something right. God bless Katie Brink for bringing me this water. Okay, and then the last one, at ONU, we actually have mock interview days, because a lot of us go on pharmacy residency, which is like a really intense thing if you ever want to work in a hospital. So the interviews are like really crazy. So we have a whole day that's dedicated to practicing for this. So you can have your mess up, you can have your bad interview, so that you can learn from that and you actually get feedback from that, and then you can apply it to your actual interview, which is really cool. I don't know if does anyone else have like anything similar to that at their school? You do? That's cool. Is it similar to that, or is it different in any way?
So in the College of Music, we have a career services and entrepreneurship consultant, and you can schedule an appointment with her, whether you need to practice for a phone interview, like mock interview, if you're just looking for jobs. So anything career or entrepreneurship related, she can help you with any of it.
Yeah, so you're at college, you are paying to go to college, right? You're paying so much money to go to college, probably. Use your resources. Like there is a lot out there, just like looking through your school's website, just trying to see like career counseling. They want, like I said, they want you to get jobs because it looks good for them. Okay, and then, well, how do you actually interview yourself? Like, how do you know what questions to ask? There are tons of resources on the internet that you can use, just lists of questions that people love to ask in interviews. And I definitely encourage you to include some that start with "tell me about a time when." I actually just had a class about being the interviewer, so being on the other side of the bench, which was kind of crazy because they were teaching us how to be administrators of pharmacy, which was like so weird for me. But they said that we should ask these types of questions at all costs. Like, these are the best kind of questions to really get to know, not necessarily like the knowledge of a person, but to know like to see like critical thinking skills, to see their personality, see if how they empathize with people. So definitely ask yourself some questions that start with "tell me about a time when." I was going to say that. Okay, so I would like to put a disclaimer on this, that these are not the views of Shelby Gail McCamey, but the views of the Raby College of Pharmacy at Ohio Northern University. I stole these policies. These are our interview policies for when we go to and represent them on our rotations and on our internships. Okay, so I'm gonna be your personal Stacy and Clinton for this. If you all have seen What Not to Wear, I hope that's still relevant. So, what not to wear? Dirt, grease, and grime. Please, please, please take a shower, brush your teeth, brush your hair, do your laundry. And what I didn't put up here that is very important, wear deodorant. Because when you are nervous, you will sweat. And nothing is worse than being in an interview and feeling like you have to be like this because you don't want the interviewer to see your pit stains. And I know because that has happened to me. All right, the second one is wild hair. So according to our standards, your hair must be a natural color, like something that could actually grow on somebody's head from birth and not crazy rainbow. And this is not to say like, oh, well, if you work anywhere, you can't have your hair a crazy color, but it's good to go in having that assumption that they aren't appreciative of crazy colors, and then finding out later that they're more lax on that sort of policy or that sort of thing, and then dyeing your hair later. And then also your guys out there, facial hair must be trimmed and neat. So just keep that in mind. No one likes a scraggly beard. That's just no. Invest in some beard oil. All right, next one is crazy nails. Yes, this is really in our handbook. So nails should be trimmed pretty short. I know it's a thing now where we're getting acrylic nails now. That it's the fashion to have the really long nails, the really pointy nails. Oh my gosh, I do not know how do you open doorknobs? I don't understand. No offense to anyone out there who has crazy nails. They're really pretty, but functionality, I have questions. And this is actually in our thing too. You should only use colored polish or clear polish is what they say. But I don't know anyone who just puts clear polish on their nails. But if you do, that's something that's totally allowed. Last thing that is ONU Raby College of Pharmacy policy is on piercings and tattoos. You want to cover visible piercings and tattoos. You really, that's another one of those policies where you want to assume that to be conservative until you find out when you already have the job that, oh, I can show my tattoos, oh, I can wear my piercings how I want. So just having that assumption going into the interview is usually for the better because you don't know who's going to be interviewing you. But for the most part, any sort of ear piercing is pretty acceptable within the interview realm. All right, I have 3 slides on this, so because I'd go through the whole policy. So inappropriate fabrics to wear during an interview, anything that has wrinkles, make sure if you don't have an iron or a steamer, it's a pretty good investment. They're not super expensive. You can get a jank one, they still work the same. Spandex is another thing that they state in the policy mainly because it's more scandalous and that's really not the vibe you're trying to go for in an interview. Usually spandex means something is pretty tight and yeah, we're not going for that vibe. The last one that I think is kind of funny is glitter or sequins. So I just think this one is funny because I feel like glitter can be done classily, but for the most part, try to just stay away from it because it can be really distracting to see bunches light flickering off of a person during an interview. So just as a general rule, stay away from anything too flashy. Next thing, revealing items. Once again, we're not trying to throw off that vibe during an interview. We're trying to just do that on our own time. So any low-cut, sheer, super tight items. Dr. Pat Pardolino likes to tell us about the crack rule, that you should not be showing any cracks. That's just her policy, but she also includes shoulder cracks in that. So don't be showing your shoulder area. And that kind of goes with the tank tops and yeah. And then a good rule for skirts or dresses that I try to follow is don't wear anything that is shorter than 3 inches above the knee. Yeah.
Is that when standing or sitting down?
That is a great question. It says actually both. So standing and sitting down must be less than 3 inches above the knee.
You mean more than? Or no, less than. I have dyscalculate and got confused.
I almost did too.
I really visualize.
Literally, right after I said it, I was like, what? So, yeah.
Words are hard.
We want long boys, not short boys.
I'm the long joke.
All right, and then obviously, I hope you all know this, but don't wear any casual items unless the interview specifies like, oh, we usually wear jeans. Oh, we usually wear casual attire. That's more for like manual jobs, maybe engineers. I don't know. My roommate's an engineer, and her work attire is usually like a polo and jeans. So it just depends on like the job interview. But if you don't know, then don't risk it. All right, last one, I promise. All right, who in here just absolutely loves staring at other people's feet? Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. So don't wear open-toed shoes.
That was a great way to.
That was like
lead
really
into that.
Okay, so yeah, don't wear open-toed shoes. No one wants to see your toes. I'm sorry. Even if your toes are fabulous, if you're a foot model, like, I'm really sorry, but no one wants to see your toes during an interview. Athletic shoes, obviously also inappropriate unless you're going for that like manual labor or engineering vibe. And then a good rule of thumb is any shoe with the brand name or logo showing anywhere on the shoe is a bad shoe, which is kind of a weird rule that we follow in the College of Pharmacy, Raby College of Pharmacy. Not my views, Raby College of Pharmacy. Remember that. This includes like, Bob's and Tom's, how they have like the brand name like on the back, like right here in the heel. I'm sorry, people at home, right here. Those are also not appropriate for us to wear. So that's kind of a gray area there. But just as a rule of thumb, I don't want to see your big Nike swoop on your shoe. Oh, another weird thing with this is that if the shoe and the sole of the shoe are two different colors, that's an inappropriate shoe. So this is a weird rule we have to follow. So I will model my shoe here. Yeah, I'm being serious right now. So this part is white, right? And this part is black. So I wouldn't be able to wear this shoe. That's like kind of weird, but it's a good rule to see, well, this shoe is kind of borderline, so I don't know. It's a good way to judge that. Yeah, Nate?
Like shades? Like this leather boot has like a dark brown and a light brown.
Yes, that would be okay, since they're both brown.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah.
I
It's only a rule because somebody broke it.
don't own a pair of shoes that's all
Okay,
one
but-
color.
On college game day, they're all wearing those, like, they look a little bit like sneakers with their dress shoes because they all have the white bottom. This is not important.
I don't like the rules,
That's true.
It's the Raby's school
I don't think
pharmacy.
college-
Maybe college
Raby.
pharmacy
College game
makes these rules.
It's only a rule because someone did something silly that made
Exactly. It is only a rule because it has to be a rule. Because someone done messed up.
someone wore Crocs. So now it's.
All right, and then another good policy for shoes is don't wear heels higher than 3 inches. Right, like I said, we're not going for that scandalous vibe. Not the time and place for that. So yeah, being tall is cool, but just not too tall.
Not too.
All right. I really don't want to go over this next section, but I have to. So extreme accessories. So I talked about not having your phone out, not having certain electronics. Apparently we've had issues with people with headphones.
AirPods, you gotta flex.
Please do not flex your AirPods at an interview. Dark lens glasses. Make sure those transitions are all the way transitioned, man. Anyone who wears transitions, I'm sorry. And then any sort of headwear that's excessive, like obviously just like a little hairband or a little hair clip is whatever. Just
So this would not be acceptable.
exactly.
Party
How would
hats.
they know that it's their birthday?
Even if it is your birthday, you're gonna have to take it off for a little bit. Okay, that's the end of that. I know what you're all thinking. I just know it. And that's okay, because the person who is interviewing you, guess what they're probably going to be?
A boomer.
Good answer.
A boomer sooner.
So we're trying to appeal more to that generation so that they like you. And we like it when people like us, because that's when we get the jobs and we get the cha-ching. All right. Punctuality. So she talked about arriving 30 minutes early to the vicinity. It leaves time for getting lost. I can tell you personally, I've gotten lost on every single one of my interviews because these are the places I interview at. Look how large this place
Look at
is.
that tree.
That's a lore.
This is the place I to go for my very first rotation. It's Riverside Methodist Hospital in Columbus, Ohio.
Oh wait, are you?
This has to be like 10 floors. Like, I'm not going to be able to find where I'm going to go in 5 minutes when I'm frantically pulling in the parking lot. So leave a bunch of time. And keep in mind, I'm from a small town, so I didn't even think about this. You might have to take a shuttle from where you park to where you have to interview at. So you have to leave time for that. Kat is looking at me like I just became a ghost. So yeah, you really have to think about things like that. It gives you time to figure out where the office is. And my rule of thumb is if it takes you more than 5 minutes to find something to get to your next place, just ask someone. So much easier. People are usually nice, especially if you ask someone who actually works there. That's helpful. Not just a random person who seems to be walking by in Findlay Hospital. Okay, and then she talked about announcing your arrival 10 to 15 minutes early to the receptionist, or just whenever you get.
When I hear that, I think of like, you walk into the door and there's like people with like those long trumpets.
fanfare.
A fanfare.
That's me.
The IU fanfare plays every time I enter an office for an interview.
Okay, how many slides do I have left? I think I
Oh my god, I love this.
Okay. So during the interview, you want to give a firm handshake. Someone really emphasized this to me once, and I don't know why, but make sure you're still standing when you give the handshake. Don't like sit down and then like try to handshake. Like it's just so awkward. Just be standing when you give the handshake. If you don't remember anything, remember this. Make eye contact. You really want to be engaging. You want to show the interviewer that you are interested and you are paying attention to what they're saying. And the best way to do that is through eye contact. And you want to give the interviewer, even if you're like a sad person, like you want to give the interviewer a perception that you are super happy to be here, you're not nervous at all, and that you're ready to take on this job. So smile and have good posture. And be enthusiastic and upbeat. So we love enthusiastic and upbeat people, so why wouldn't you want someone to hire someone who's enthusiastic and upbeat?
Enthusiasm. HAPPY. We love this band.
All right, and then this is your time to tell your stories. So like I talked about, notes might be helpful, but don't read directly from them. That's not how you want to appear in an interview. You don't want to appear scripted. You want to be engaging. You want to be showing that you are an actual person and not a robot.
I am robot.
And don't have a computer open because that is a robot, and robots are forbidden in interviews. All right, so these last two are kind of like my little adding things. So try not to fidget. You don't want to appear nervous. You want to appear confident, like you're ready to take on this job today. So this can also be really distracting for the interviewer. And a good way to prevent fidgeting is to just talk with your hands. Because when you talk with your hands, you're actually fidgeting, but you're directing it in an engaging way. You're directing your anxiety in a way that is helpful and it makes you seem personable. Alright. And then my last one is my personal favorite. Who just like loves to like listen to people chew.
Especially
Yeah, that's great. Like I can't stand the people chewing, the ASMR. I don't get it. I'm sorry. Like it just doesn't work for me. So don't go in your interview and be chomping on some gum, because that just comes off as more unprofessional, even if like it's not really like, what am I trying to think of? Like a conscious thing, like subconsciously it's kind of more of that sort of thing. So yeah.
You said you added those last two, so those are your views.
Yeah, those are my views.
Not
Okay, these last two are not the views of the Raby College of Pharmacy at Ohio Northern University. Okay, and then after the interview, I can't tell you how many times I walked down an interview and I was like, what's even happening? Like, what am I gonna do right now? When am I gonna find out if I got this job or not? Please, please, please ask the employer what their expectations are. It could be as simple as asking, hey, what are the next steps after this interview? Super easy and super helpful, and it gives you way less anxiety knowing I'm gonna know by this time if I have this job or if I don't have this job. Another thing that she mentioned was to give a closing statement. So reiterate why your interest and why you would be a good fit, but still try to make it conversational. Once again, robots are not allowed in interviews. And the last one is really important, and I think we don't think about this a lot, but send a thank you. If someone took time out of their day to not do all their work that they're supposed to do, not catch up on things, but to sit down and to interview you and to find a person for this job. And that's really a really taxing process for a lot of people. So definitely send a thank you. Usually we're going to go with email. I know she said like send a note. That's probably not going to be the case for most of us in the 21st century. But she did say to make sure to do it within 24 to 48 hours so you don't seem that desperate. And then in this thank you, it's a really good opportunity to reiterate, even reiterate this closing statement, like what are your interests and what are your qualifications? Here it is. Kat Grant.
Something that I have learned, because I had to take a whole legal profession class, is that sometimes schools will have like stationery with the official school letterhead at like your career office. So if it's a job you really, really want, and you really, really want to stand out, you can go and like get fancy official like thick paper and like either handwrite or like print your thank you letter on that and send it as a physical note. So if you want to do that, if it's a job that you really, really, really want.
Yeah, remember that time you paid thousands of dollars to go to school? Yeah,
so many
use
resources.
your resources. Okay, and then lastly is just going over that Skype interview that she was talking about. So you're going to want to choose an interview spot that has really reliable Wi-Fi. Like you want to find the most reliable Wi-Fi that you can think of. ONU Wi-Fi is not going to cut anything, I'm sorry. Katie's room Wi-Fi, not going to cut it.
Nope.
And then you're going to want to declutter the background. The worst thing an interviewer could think of you is that you're super disorganized and a messy person, because that's just not a good reflection of you. So make sure the background is decluttered. And then check your camera angle. No interviewer wants to look at your double chins the entire interview. So make sure that your camera is elevated and you're not looking on like this. Okay. Next thing is to dress up, and yes, dress up all the way. It's proven that if you dress up, you increase your chances of doing better on tests. It's really a thing. So, and also, if you decide to, like, I don't know, skip wearing pants or something, and your camera falls off the table, guess what? You're not getting that job.
You're new.
No.
Wait, no.
Sorry.
Can you imagine?
I wasn't ready.
Like, you just like, you're like in a suit top, but like nude.
No.
Wait, I'm gonna need you to stop.
Okay,
That's a real life that happened.
next part of this is charge your technology. You don't want to be in the middle of the interview and just go black, because that seems like, oh, they really didn't care about this. They just like turned off and they're not interested anymore. So definitely make sure everything is charged. Maybe even keep it plugged in the whole interview. And then during the interview, look into the camera, not the screen. I know we all love looking at ourselves, and some of us don't, but that's okay. Just look into the camera and making sure you're making that eye contact, because once again, that's engaging. That's really important for like making a connection with the interviewer, even over a camera, even over Skype. And then articulation and tone are even more important, because it is so hard to just hear someone over. It's way harder to hear someone over like the static and anything else that could be going on during a computer video. Because we've all experienced that, where it's like, oh, it's so hard to hear this person talk because it's just all grungy and grumbly. So make sure you're articulating well and that your tone really comes through as that person who's really excited to be here, that enthusiastic person. Any questions? Yeah, great.
It's more of a comment.
Yeah.
One of those use your school resources kind of thing.
I love it.
Check and see if your career center has a space for Skype interviews.
Ooh.
IU has one in the law school. I'm not sure if they do for the general campus, but it's like a space where there's like, you're in a room and there's a camera like set up in the wall and it's like real fancy. And a lot of career centers will have like at least dedicated spaces where you can bring your computer and sit down, or just like reserve a conference room, like a small conference room, like your library or something. That way you don't have to do it at home, and you kind of have like a different mental space. You pay for resources, use them.
Good point. I love it. Katie.
And I will also add, as someone who does not fit a lot of those descriptions, I also don't work in the kind of fields that require those descriptions. So like, dress for the job you want. So like, I'm not gonna wear like a really nice like pantsuit to an interview at a bar because it's not appropriate. And
Whereas I would absolutely wear a pantsuit to one of my job interviews because
Right.
as a doctor of pharmacy.
Yeah. So like I like working in bars and working in more casual environments, which is the kind of work that I have been in. I will wear like a nice pair of black jeans and like a nice shirt, but like I might wear a short sleeve shirt and like show that I have like tattoos and stuff. But that's because that's the kind of like environment that I work in, and that's okay. But also like when I interviewed for the U.S. Senate, I dressed very differently. So it's like dress for the job you want, not the job you have.
Absolutely.
Right.
Take this as you will. I'm a pharmacy student, so I obviously have to be extra professional is what they tell us, even more than the other majors. Sorry, Nathan.
Oh.
But take this as you will. Apply it to yourselves. You don't have to take everything I say today as law, but I hope you actually did learn something.
Sorry.
You're fine. So I actually have a little activity for you guys. That transition did not work.
Get on those phones, you
Okay,
Gen Zs.
so we're gonna do the
Index card. I love it.
Wait, this did not update at all. What?
Uh-oh.
How did I do this? It's okay. I want you to take an index card that I'm gonna pass out that I don't have up here, but I have in my book bag, and then we're gonna get on those phones, you Gen Zers, or Zennials, or Millennials. I mean, whatever you identify as. And we're gonna Google commonly asked interview questions. And then while you're doing this, you can bookmark some sites that you really like. But really what I want you to do is write down your favorite 2 questions, not 3, 2 questions. And just do that for now. Just do that. Steps 1 through 4. Okay. I gotta get my index card.
Or 3.
I'm already 3 deep in.
Like,
Yesterday was, or 2 days ago.
What if there's actually something alive on this and you don't know?
Oh, we don't. We don't know.
I'm only a little bit vibrating.
I'm good right
Okay.
now, but
Sorry, I like threw that back.
Shelby, can I read this
Yeah,
to
it's
interview?
like I'm caffeinated, but I'm so tired.
Our face!
I'm not
Only
yet.
for the TBS interview.
Oh, perfect.
Mara, I like that you added the party pack to the product.
Do what?
I like that you added the party pack.
Yes, it's great. It's fantastic. Well, originally in the morning I was like, I need to put it on, but I have another thing on my head, so I just added it. It fits. I don't know how she's still on. But
It's
it
also going
fits,
to
so
be
we're just gonna roll with it.
Secret.
Do you have anything?
It's a surprise tool that will help us
Do you want me
later.
to keep it running?
No, it's cool. You can turn it on.
If you want it running, I can.
Nah.
Say bye. Shelby, say bye.
All right. Thanks everyone for tuning in.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.